I say a quick little prayer. Just, I want my treatment to be as effective as possible to this patient. And I just hope that I can help this patient out today. I do a roll on in my hands with essential oil, take a couple of deep breaths, and head on into the home. My hands, because I have that oil on my hands, it's already has just a diffuser effect to the dogs, to the pets that I'm seeing. So they already are getting a sniff of that essential oil to just kind of calm them and ground and balance them.
Hi, guys, and welcome to the House Call Vet Cafe podcast. I'm Dr. Eve Harrison. I'm a full-time integrative concierge house call veterinarian in Los Angeles, and I help other vets to build their unique mobile practices on their terms. This podcast is for and by house call and mobile veterinarians, so it is meant to give our community a platform to connect, to share our stories, to lift each other up, and to support each other. Most of us work solo as lone wolves, right? So for me, it's been really powerful to be able to physically hear the voices of my colleagues from all over the world and to get a chance to feel that we truly are part of a community of very real other human beings who get it. While you may be alone in that little bubble of your own vehicle when you're on the road seeing patients, I welcome you to join our community by tuning into our own podcast when you're on your way to your next house call. Whether you're a super experienced house call vet with 30 years of experience, you're a brand new prospective house call vet just looking to get started, or you're house call curious, there will be something for you in this podcast. Each episode, you will hear interviews from other mobile veterinarians just like yourself who are doing unique and innovative things, vets who are sharing their stories, their struggles and challenges, and you can also look forward to hearing valuable information and perspectives from specialists and experts outside of our micro niche. And finally, if becoming a house call veterinarian is something that you've been thinking about exploring, or you're looking for some extra support getting your own mobile practice to feel more profitable and sustainable for you, check out the information in the show notes about my course and our above and beyond supportive private community for members only, plus our monthly group coaching sessions within the House Call Vet Academy. You can also check out my free public Facebook group, which is also called the House Call Vet Cafe, the same name as this podcast, and which is a warm and cozy community for mobile vets to support each other in professional and personal development, in creative entrepreneurship, and in friendship. So thank you guys for spending time with me today. Let's dive into the episode.
Hey everyone, we have an awesome guest that I've been really excited to interview for a while. So I'm going to introduce Dr. Arielle Walton. She is a Nashville-based veterinarian, originally from Atlanta, Georgia, where I actually have visited, which is strange. She is a 2012 graduate of Tuskegee University School of Veterinary Medicine. During her studies, she developed a passion for traditional Chinese veterinary medicine, particularly acupuncture, and has become a certified veterinary acupuncturist under the guidance of Dr. Xie from the Qi Institute, my favorite. In 2019, she opened House Paws Acupuncture, a mobile veterinary practice in Nashville. Dr. Arielle is passionate about integrative medicine, combining TCVM and conventional approaches to improve patient outcomes. Outside of work, she enjoys traveling with her husband, caring for their 3 dogs, and exploring hobbies such as beekeeping and plant medicine for her family. Welcome, Dr. Arielle. I'm so excited to have you on the show. We've known each other through the Facebook realm for a few years now, and so I remember when you gave me this acupuncture document that was really helpful. And so I'm just really excited to have you on the show and to get to know you a little bit better on this episode.
I am quite excited to be here, Dr. Eve. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to start out by asking the question that I always ask, which is, what is your favorite snack to eat in the car on the way to house calls if you snack?
I love to snack, and I would say my favorite snack is probably some sort of nut of some sort, which can get super messy in the car, but I like to snack on little trail mixes and raisins, almonds. I'll make a little parfait and put a ton of nuts on top of it. So that's probably I need to get some ideas I need to listen to some more podcasts to see what other people are snacking on. It's probably a little bit more clean, but I love me some nuts. That's usually what I'm snacking on.
That's pretty clean. It's pretty standard. A lot of house call vets are into nuts. When they're salty, the salt gets everywhere. And then I'm driving with your steering wheel and you're covered in nuts and salt and whatever?
Okay, exactly. Or vacuuming out my car, just sweeping up a whole bag of nuts that I've dropped over the week or so. So yeah, I love me some nuts.
Do you have, like I think you sound like you're more organized than I am, because 'cause I'll look in my car and I'm like, "Why is there a peanut in there? I've been eating peanuts for months." Or, like, there's, like, a sunflower there, and do you, like, find random nuts in your car?
Mhm. Oh yeah. Well, I'll say this. Don't give me too much credit. Last night I pulled out some mason jars of a fruit smoothie, and my husband was like, "Are you serious?" And it was dried on the edges and everything. And I was like, "I forgot it was in here. Welcome to my office."
Welcome to my office. Amen. I have so many I feel God, I've done that kinda thing, like, finding literally rotten food in my car, like, drinks, like, God knows what half of our cutlery is in my car, so, oh my god. We had our house call vet retreat, a couple months ago now, and I was like, "Would someone else like to drive to the restaurant? Because you guys are not gonna see the inside of my car. Look away, avert your eyes, this needs not to be seen."
I'm with you on that. Totally with you.
So, can you tell me a little bit about how you became a house call vet? And I suspect our journeys were similar. Like, my journey also really was like I had a kickstart from the acupuncture world. And I also went to Chi and I love Dr. Xie. And like, I would love to hear how your story unfolded.
Yes, let's see. So I started or got interested in acupuncture my senior year of vet school. And it was so random. I mean, it was a pamphlet that I think if you've gone to Chi before, we all have seen that pamphlet. So it came across my desk and I was like, I saw scholarship. And so I said, oh, free money. I'm like a starving vet student. Take it. Sounds cool. Sounds fun. Let's try it out. Applied for the scholarship, got the scholarship, and then I said, "Oh, I don't know anything about acupuncture. I know nothing whatsoever. I'm knee deep in internal medicine and large animal right now." So I said, "Well, I probably should go do an internship or something to, kind of get a gist of what I'm getting into." Obviously, I should have done this prior to applying for the scholarship, but intuition is everything. And I actually was able to do an internship and use it as senior credit for an internship. And I flew out to Houston. There was a wonderful acupuncturist out in Houston, and she allowed me to come and shadow for a couple of weeks there. When I got there, she had mentioned, she said, and her name was Dr. Ackerman in Houston with Houston. Animal acupuncture was her name. And she said, this will be part of your internship hour fulfillment. I was like, okay, great. This works out perfectly. And she had me sit with a lot of the clients. She would place the needles, head out the room, and I would just sit with the clients. And it was kind of like a therapy session because they were spilling all types of tea while we were there. And they were just giving me a lot of testimony as well on how acupuncture has really benefited their pet from your traditional like musculoskeletal conditions, arthritis and everything, all the way to like mega esophagus. I remember we saw a skunk as well too. It was just so diverse and a total switch up from vet school at that point in time. And so I was like, I think I'm in the right place. I'm totally in the right place here. So as soon after I left her, I came home to my parents' house and our family dog that we had some lymph nodes the size of golf balls. Yeah. So being a vet student, I already knew, went to the most sinister thing in which it was confirmed to be lymphoma. I had taken like maybe 2 days later, I went to go take my first acupuncture course. So I got all the points that I needed, came home. She was like a little porcupine. I was poking her with all the type of needles I could think of, all the points that I had learned, and contacted Dr. Ackerman again. She kind of gave me a protocol, including diet change and everything on just trying to extend her life as much as possible. We didn't wanna do a full CHOP protocol, chemotherapy. We did minimum, I think we did doxorubicin of some sort and did her acupuncture. We all know, lymphoma is and it was B-cell lymphoma. It wasn't great. And we extended her out 6 months past her expiration date. So after that, I was sold. I was like, "Okay, I've had my own experience." She was great. I call it a educational vacation. I had the internship hours already taken care of. She was my case study that I had to do for the requirements for the CVA. And after that, I was sold. I was sold. I went on to graduate. I had entered the match, had gotten some advice from some other vets that had actually graduated already, had gone on to internships. And they just said, hey, if you want to specialize, continue on with your internship. But if you don't want to specialize and you want to actually do the acupuncture with GP, go that route because an internship, you're going to forget everything that you learned over the next year of an internship. So I matched, but I dropped my internship, was out. I didn't really know where I was going to go, who was going to entertain a first year graduate trying to do acupuncture and GP. I landed upon Banfield, surprisingly, and their agreement was, yeah, they would let me do acupuncture and they supported it. This was a Banfield that was located inside of a PetSmart. So over the probably about a course of about 2 years, got some patients here and there. It was great, built my confidence. The traffic inside of a PetSmart wasn't ideal for acupuncture. I like to set the vibes. I like the aromatherapy, the music, the lighting. I like that. But I think that adds to the effectiveness of acupuncture and just the patient's comfort level. So I moved to a standalone Banfield, which was absolutely wonderful. Gave me all the vibes. People brought me crystals to put in the room and everything. So it was really great there. And I did that for about 2 more years. The team was really receptive to it. I was able to do presentations so they would know what they're talking about when they're recommending it to clients. And it was great. What I found myself seeing the most was single women with large breed dogs. And they were saying, hey, I think that acupuncture works great, but getting a large breed dog in a car, out a car, in a car, and back out of a car on the way here, riding along and everything, it didn't work too well. So I was like, okay, let me just try doing it coming to your home. So I'm still working at Banfield, working about 4 days a week. One of those days where I was off, I would see patients and I would only have maybe like one patient a day or so and built myself up to started to flow into working on the weekends and everything. COVID hit. And with COVID hitting, I was like, hey, I don't know if I want to do Banfield anymore. I just wasn't with the corporate medicine anymore. I had got what I needed, and it was time for me to move on at that point. I don't jump into anything with 2 feet. So I said, let me just do 1 foot at a time. Let me go relief first. Let me go relief. And I always would like to stay up to date with Western medicine. So I still wanted to work GP. I went into relief just as a transition to trying to do my own practice. Relief was great, good experience, learned a ton. I was doing acupuncture about 2 days a week, and that was great. And just this year, I have now moved up to 3 days a week and I still work in the clinic. I don't necessarily do relief anymore. It started off as a relief gig, then I really fell in love with the clinic, so now I'm there on a routine basis. So I'm part-time. So acupuncture 3 days a week, GP still 1.5 days a week, and this is my jam. Like, this is what I like to do. I like the best of both worlds. It works really well for me. So that's kinda how I got started and moved into in-home acupuncture, and I really enjoy it. I mean, animals act totally different in their comfort of their home. And I don't have a tech. It's just me by myself. I actually just had my best friend. She has drinking the chi Kool-Aid and has now started training for acupuncture. So she came down to do her internship with me. And she's like, I just cannot believe that you do this by yourself. And she said, now I see why you're able to do this by yourself. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, they just are totally different in the home. And I survey owners every once in a while and ask them like, "Hey, if I were to get a brick and mortar, would you come visit me?" And they so meekly say, "I like the in-home." And especially with COVID and everybody, working from home nowadays, it just makes it easy. So that's kinda how I got started. I know that was a long
No, that
winded.
was great. That's the interesting stuff right here. That's like what everyone wants to hear. That's like what I wanted to hear. That's a beautiful story, and like I love. Well, I'm sorry that it started kind of with your own animal, and that was your first real patient of this medicine, and that's how you understood what it can do. I mean, it's beautiful and it's also sad, but I mean, I would say my cat Marigold, who my house call practice is named after, I had just started doing acupuncture before she died. So she was my first house call, literally house call acupuncture patient. She was in the house. So like I did get to give her some acupuncture, but she died so shortly after that. Like I'm always like, oh, I know so much more now. I wish I could have done more back then. But it's beautiful that you really were able to give that extra 6 months and like you had mentorship already kind of helping guide you and giving you a little bit of a protocol. And I always feel like that gives kind of like a little bit of a soul almost to the work that you continue on to do because it's like, this is personal. You have like a personal stake in it. You've seen it work on your own beloved animals. So I think that's really, really special. And I thought it was also really interesting that you were like, I never jump with both feet. I jump with one foot
Yeah.
first. And I love that you made that connection that like a launch pad to house call practice is relief work. Like
Mhm.
many people go to relief work because they're burnt out and then they're like, oh, I like this. And then the idea to go into house call practice comes next. But you sort of like had the vision already that this is a launch pad. Like this is foot one and the next foot is the house call practice. So I think that's really cool. I like how that process sort of seemed to have happened for you. And now I'm really curious. Like you mentioned, you have the music and you have the aromatherapy and you have crystals. And I practice in a really similar way. Like it's all about environment. I would love to hear if you wouldn't mind sharing, like, how do you use those enhancements to the therapeutic modalities that you're offering for your patients?
Yeah. So my setup's a little different now that I'm in the home. I don't know much about crystals. That's like kind of on my list. One of those things I'm eventually going to get into. But of course, clients give me crystals, just the clientele we work with. We get those types of gifts. So I'll carry some healing crystals in my bag. Again, probably not great to put it in my bag, but I have it in my bag. I don't really bring them out. My number one thing is when I come in, I typically, when I'm riding in the car, I have an essential oil diffuser in the car, and it is a combination of balancing oils, also just calming oils as well too, adaptogen type oils also. I also have a roll on of that oil as well too. So before I go into any patient, one, I say a quick little prayer. Just I want my patient, my treatment to be as effective as possible to this patient. And I just hope that I can help this patient out today. I do a roll on in my hands with essential oil, take a couple of deep breaths, and head on into the home. My hands, because I have that oil on my hands, it's already has just a diffuser effect to the dogs, to the pets that I'm seeing. So they already are getting a sniff of that essential oil to just kind of calm them and ground and balance them. And then I do apply, again, I'll do another swipe of essential oil. And these are diluted oils. So it's like 1%. It's safe for small cats, dogs, all of that. So I'll roll that on my hands and I just kind of rub it down their back, down their spine, just in a calming technique, just to get them used to my hands and everything. Again, they are inhaling this as well too, just to kind of calm and cool them down. And then I use my laser as well. And I use the wind up therapy technique, just kind of scanning up and down their back. And then I'll go into my exam after that. And oftentimes, fine, like if I go straight for it, if I don't go through that process and who knows what's going on, and I just come in straight, feel pulses and everything, I get different findings if I don't do my routine, my ritual of just calming the patient down, getting them used to my touch. Totally different pulses, totally different tongue color. Behavior is completely different. They're like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? As opposed to, oh no, she's here. Of course, I love giving some treats. So I'm, giving treats as well too. And it just creates that bond. I let them know, like, hey, I'm here to help you. And then I'm a firm believer in talking to your patient and telling them what you're about to do. So we'll have a conversation and I'll just say like, hey, today we're going to do something a little different, especially for my first time acupuncture patients. I'm going to place some needles all over. Some are going to be on your toes. Some are going to be on your back. And I'll just touch those areas just so they know this is where I'm going to be placing some of their needles. And that tends, I would say probably 90% of the time, works extremely well. And like I said, I've done it the other way where I've just been gone with the day and just go in, I get to it. And it's just, I don't find it to be as effective. And more so they're uncomfortable as well too, and sometimes the owners are a little uncomfortable also. So that's kind of my ritual. Also, owners, when I come in with those essential oils, they're always like, "Oh, this smells so good." And I'm not a perfumey person much at all, especially when I'm working and going into people's homes, but I'll have that essential oil on them. And I like for them to also inhale that essential oil as well too. And I always try. That's why I say a prayer before I go in. I have my own stressors, but I try not to carry that into people's homes. I try to bring good energy when I go into their homes. So oftentimes I get feedback from owners just saying, "I'm just excited to know that you're coming over. Yes, I know you're gonna do acupuncture for my dog. Yes, I know it's gonna help, but when you come into the home, you just bring a really good energy into the home, and that makes me feel good as well." In fact, I have some clients I had about 2 clients who, even after their pets passed, they still wanted me to come over. And I would come over and, sit and chit chat with them and everything and say hi to their other pets. But I really appreciate that feedback because it's something I try really hard to do is to bring good energy in and make the pets as comfortable as possible and respect them in their own home. So that's kind of my ritual that I do going into the home.
That is so beautiful. Like, I have chills listening to it, and, like, I relate so much to what you're saying, and what you're describing is true, true holistic medicine, which is, of course, like, we're using alternative medical techniques like acupuncture and laser and massage and hands-on stuff, but, like, part of what makes things holistic is including yourself, including the client, including the animal, like, it's almost like a field of, like, when we're all on the same page, the client is calm, they feel comfortable, and they trust you, the animal trusts you. We're working with consent of the
Right.
animal, their permission from the animal, having them opt in. There's something deeply, deeply healing to everyone involved in working with animals in that way, especially with animals who rarely have the agency to opt in.
Right.
And so it's really, really special how you, like, take your time, you slow down, and I love the intentionality that you bring to it. I love that you say a prayer. Like, I would say I have times that I have mantras, I have intentions that I set. I haven't really thought of it in terms of, like, prayer, but I think that's really, really special and really powerful, and I'm sure that gives a little bit of, like, something beyond words to the experience and to you as the practitioner to be able to provide that experience in integrity and love and with full intention for healing. And I love the specific prayer that I can maybe be able to help this animal and, like, oh, I'm just, like, so inspired right now. I just really love that you do that and the integrity there, and I can feel that coming through. Like, that's very, very apparent, and your lucky clients and patients, how beautiful is that? That's amazing.
Thank you so much. I try. I try.
I'm very much with you on the fact that I like for the owners to smell the essential oils as well too. Like, I have music, it's for the animal and it's also for the client. It's like when the energy just sort of sinks in and grounds for everyone involved, and then the whole experience is better. And I mean, I think you're really keyed into the fact that patient outcomes, like the parameters you mentioned, the pulse, the tongue quality, and I mean, if we're just feel those are external things, we don't even know what's happening blood pressure wise, like heart rate, I mean, we know we can measure those things, but I think we so vastly underestimate the power of the environment and the sensation of safety while healing is occurring to add and enhance whatever that process is for the animal. So I love how you explain that. Would you tell me a little bit about how you use music?
Yes. So, and that's one thing I forgot to mention is, of course, I always have some music. And I initially, to be honest with you, I opened up my Spotify and typed in acupuncture music and just would play that for the longest, right? And then I don't know much at all, but I happened to, and I can't remember where I picked it up from. It may have been a client of some sort, or I can't remember who it was exactly, but mentioned healing frequencies. And okay, well, let me look up, some healing frequency music and found like, hey, you can do a 432 healing frequency playlist. You can find a ton of those playlists with different genres of music. Like I have a 432 R&B, 432 um I know Andre 3000 from Outkast, his most recent album is a flute album. He's playing the flute the whole time. He's not rapping at all. And it's all on 432 frequency. So I'll play that as well too. Just, again, to give me a little personal mix, but also catering to the patient as well too. I love Outkast. Oh, again, I'm from Atlanta, so I love Outkast. But I'm really starting to get into the healing frequencies. Currently, my playlist is a 432 reggae playlist. So we're kind of ending the summer and I just kind of got tired of hearing my gong music. So I was like, let me do a little 432 reggae list. So that's what that's what we're doing this month is some reggae for everybody.
That is awesome. That's like beyond awesome. Like, oh my God. I have like a solfeggio. It's like a station that I listen to, solfeggio, and then also like binaural beats. I really like. You kind of have to have both headphones in, so you get one sound in one ear and another like vibration in another ear. I can't remember how they explain it. So that's more like for the humans, but like that music, oh my God, you're doing such good stuff. Like the 432 playlist and like reggae and like, oh my God, I have to find that flute album. Holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
I need that.
Yes. That's a good some of my clients, they're like, "Is this Andre 3000?" And I'm like, "We're here. We are here." They'll know it. So and they'll play it for themselves as well too. Like they're like,
Yes.
"I play that for myself just to get me, ready for the day." So I'm learning more about the frequencies. I'm gonna have to get the name of what you were mentioning. I'm gonna have to get that from you just to try that out as well
Yeah,
too.
actually, I'm gonna like look it up right now because I want to tell you and also about some like playlists that I've. Oh my God, hopefully I can find it right now. Oh, well, this is a different one right now. Just because I want to like share it with you because we're like
Yeah.
on the same page. This is not like the healing frequencies per se, but there's this thing that I listen to on Spotify all the time called humming, chanting, and singing along for vagus nerve toning, which I find really calming and grounding. And then where's this other one? There's like another healing music for, oh, where is it? Where is it? Oh my gosh, I need to show you this thing. I'll include it in the show. I'll send it to you separately because like it's gonna take me a minute, but it's called Solfeggio Healing Frequencies.
Well, yeah, okay. Look at that. I see the
Yeah.
Vegas. I never thought about doing Vegas nerve.
Yes, like humming and singing, like really, really tone the vagus nerve. It's beautiful. Like sometimes when I'm like worked up or if I need to like have my energy be a little bit more like appropriate for my house call, I will like sit in my car and hum along with it and things like that. But oh, I love this conversation. Oh my gosh. There's one from Solfeggio. There's something called 963 Hertz Return to Oneness. That was beautiful. That got me turned on to the solfeggio healing frequency. It's really beautiful.
Gonna definitely
Nerding out on this. Nerding out on the air. Gotta love it.
I love this. Oh, thank you for the okay, I see it. I totally see it. Okay.
Yes.
632. Yeah, I'm so interested in these frequencies. Like I didn't know much about it at all. And I was like, oh, so there's different frequencies for different things. At first I just knew about 432 as a healing frequency. And then later on, they're like, no, there are other frequencies for things. So this one's interesting. I'm gonna listen to 963.
I love that you do that. And I love that you like mix it with reggae and like, oh, that's so beautiful. Oh my God. Wow, I'm so excited. Hey everyone, Dr. Eve Harrison here. Whether you are a solo mobile vet feeling the weight of isolation, or whether you're struggling with boundaries or issues with your current client base, or if you're in the early stages of starting your house call practice and you're struggling with analysis paralysis and decision fatigue, you're trying to get enough patients into your practice to be able to start paying your bills, or you're someone dreaming of breaking free from the corporate life or your clinic life, but you're afraid to make the leap. Well, if you're any of those things, I totally see you. I know what it's like to eat lunch in your car while catching up on charts, to question if you're charging enough, to wonder if you can really build a sustainable mobile practice without burning out, and even know what it's like to wonder if the house call practice that you've already built with your blood, sweat, and tears is something that you can even keep going with, given how burnt out you might already be. But I also know that it's possible to thrive beyond your wildest dreams as a house call vet. And I know this because I've done it. And that is why I'm so excited to announce that registration is finally open for our 4th annual House Call and Mobile Vet virtual conference. This is not just another CE event. This is your first step towards transformation. We're tackling the real challenges of mobile practice, from handling red flag clients who believe that as a house call vet, you should be available 24/7. More importantly, we're going to be sharing proven solutions that help you work less while earning more, that help you work in a way that reflects your true worth, and that helps you build a practice that fits your life. Whether you're an experienced mobile vet looking to optimize your practice or just starting to explore this path, you'll leave this conference with concrete strategies that you can implement immediately to increase both your income and your time freedom. The conference is virtual. It's February 1st and 2nd, 2025, and you can join from the coziness of your own couch while sipping hot chocolate and ordering your favorite Thai food while you're hand-fed gems of wisdom for your house call practice and while you celebrate with your tribe. Here's what two of our veteran house call and mobile vet virtual conference attendees had to say. Dr. B said, day one of the conference, and it was fantastic. Speakers discussing the nitty-gritty subjects of medicine, the down and dirty ways to treat cats who may not receive treatment otherwise, and meeting other vets willing to take back the profession. I think I have found my tribe. I think it is truly the most excited I have been at a vet conference in a long time. Thank you, Dr. Eve, for all the time and energy you put into this. I cannot wait until tomorrow. And then we have from Dr. M. What a unique and engaging conference, even better than last year, and last year was amazing. So if you're feeling excited, inspired, and ready to sign up, don't wait too long. We have an amazing price for our early bird registration. That is open only through January 1st, 2025. And the first 50 people to register will receive a special bonus package that I've personally curated to help you implement everything that you've learned. Head to my Instagram, the House Call Vet Academy, or the link in the show notes to secure your spot. I'm Dr. Eve Harrison, and I can't wait to show you just how amazing mobile practice can be with the right support and community behind you, and to celebrate with those of you who already know exactly how life-giving this path can be. Now back to our show. Okay, so that kind of like ties into the next question I was going to ask. So you're in Nashville, and like Nashville is like where all the music is, and I've been kind of like infatuated with Nashville for a while. Like I've never been, but on the subject of music, what's it like practicing in Nashville? Is there any sort of like particular flavor that you encountered working there and with the clients and the patients there?
So first, you're definitely gonna have to come visit in Nashville. Now you have me here, so you gotta come visit. Nashville is great. When I first moved here, I was a little apprehensive, and I kind of put 5 year. I was like, "Oh, I'll be here for 5 years, and I'm leaving." And my husband's originally the Nashville native. They call him a unicorn here because nobody's really from Nashville that is here. And he dragged me up here after vet school, and I've been here now going on 9 years. So it's great, total tourist town. Broadway is great. I am one of I'm even though I'm a local, I do like doing some of the touristy things just to kind of switch things up, so I enjoy that. My clientele, I would say a variety of clientele. In Nashville, there are a lot of colleges and universities. So I have a variety. I have a lot of professors. I do have some songwriters and music producers as well too. I have some artists as well too. There is an area in Nashville called East Nashville, and it's what they call the hipster type area. So works really well with acupuncture. So I see a lot of clients in that area, and it's just a really nice family type area, and kind of everybody's very community tight knit and everything. So I see a lot of people in that area, but every once in a while I run into somebody I know. But a lot of the music producers and songwriters, they're behind the scenes, so you don't necessarily know. I walk into a house and see a Grammy in the corner, and I'm like, okay. And I try not to get meddle into people's business of anymore. Obviously, you do something in the music industry, but usually those people with Grammys, they'll just go right out, tell you what they do. So that's always exciting when I get that. I'm like, goes to a Grammy before. That's always exciting. So me and my mom always laugh back and forth. She's like, who's that one client that you really want? And I was like, Reba McEntire. Like, that's what I want to see, Reba McEntire. And actually, one of my famous clients is Doug the Pug. I don't know if you're familiar with Doug the Pug of any sort.
I don't know Doug the Pug, but
Well, yeah.
I probably have seen Doug the Pug just like, like you see these animals around and you don't always know who they are, but I'm going to look up Doug the Pug, but that's exciting. Doug the Pug, that's really cute.
Yes, he's very, very cute, very cute. Such a friendly dog. He is super popular in Nashville. I was so excited to get him as a client, and his owners, they're the nicest, kindest people ever. They were telling me that the night before our appointment, he had done a gala with Dolly Parton, and they were showing me the video of it, and Dolly walked past Doug and turned around and she went up and hugged him and rubbed on him and everything. So the minute they told me that, I was hugging Doug the pug. I was like, "Give me some Dolly, give me some Dolly." So, of course, Dolly is always gonna be on my list, but Reba is my girl. So I would love to Reba one day and be able to treat her pet. So it's nice living in Nashville. It's really nice. There's a lot of Titans players too, football NFL players. I don't recognize them outside of their helmets. Like if they were wearing a jersey with the name on the back, I would know who they are. But outside of that, like my husband will say, "You know, that's a Titans player right there. You know that for that's coach." I'm like, "Oh, it is? Okay, all right." So there's some celebrities, but most people are just kind of everyday people. And I like getting to know people. And we usually don't even talk about like careers or what we do in life of any sort. So I don't necessarily even get that intel on who that person is. It's just nice to know people without their job titles a lot of times.
Oh, I really, really love that. You're getting into the heart of it when, like, the career doesn't come up because that's, like, the default, like, "So what do you do? What do you do?" It's like that's, like, small talk 101, and right? And the fact that it
Really.
doesn't even come up is, like, you're right into the heart of what matters, what people wanna share with you, like, you had said, like, it's like a therapy session. It is like a therapy session.
It
When
is.
doing work like this, like, and you make people feel comfortable and safe and seen and cared for, like, the real tea gets spilled, like, the real tea,
Oh, it
just like you
does.
said. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So is it like I don't really know, is it very urban or is it rural? Like, I'm, like, wanting to ask you about your beekeeping, and I'm like,
Uh, Beekeeping is
like, what kind of environment is it?
it's a mixture, actually. It's a mixture. So Nashville is located in Davidson County, but like any metropolitan area city, there's a huge outskirt. And the outskirts are definitely rural area, a lot of farmlands, a lot of hilly areas, mountain. There's a lot of mountains here as well too. But in Nashville itself is pretty urban here. But there's a lot of land, like people property wise, people have a fair amount of land. As time goes on, construction development, that starts to dwindle down, but there are a lot of backyard chicken coops that people have here, especially in that East Nashville area. Beehives that you'll drive past people's homes and they'll have their beehives in their front yard. So I think it's the best of both worlds. My sister said I'm going through a, what does she call it? A millennial crisis of some sort, doing plant medicine and beekeeping. And I told her, I was like, I think I have some chickens. She goes, all the millennials are doing that right now. It's a little crisis that you guys are going through. I'm like, whatever. And it may be true because a lot of my clients are doing these things and we're exchanging ideas about it. And a lot of the clients are around my age. They're in my age group. So people just work with what they have. They want that kind of rural-ish lifestyle, but they don't wanna necessarily live in that area, so they make do with what they have. Like I said, I one client, she has, like, 10 chickens in her backyard. You would never guess. I didn't even know she had chickens back there, so it's the best of both worlds, I have to say.
That's awesome. Do you ever work on the chickens or goats or anything like that? You're kind of cats and dog mostly.
Cats and dogs, yeah. I haven't done chickens. I'm sure I will work my way up to chickens. At some point in time, I'm gonna own chickens, so I'm sure I'll work my way up to chickens. But my technician bring me a tortoise. "Caitlin, you know I don't see the exotic animals." And she's like, I know, but he has an upper respiratory infection." And I was like, "What the I'll give it a try." So I did, and it was great. I didn't have the pepper needles that I wanted to use for him, but he did great. We treated him integratively, so he was on some antibiotics, but I think that definitely sped up his healing. So I would say tortoises as far as I go. I am interesting facts. I'm allergic to all animals except rodents. I think it's so it's common in the vet world. Dog blood gives me anaphylactic reactions. Horses give me anaphylactic reactions. If I wasn't allergic to horses so bad, I would do horses. And there is a huge, huge community of horses down here, Tennessee walking horse. for acupuncture works great in horses. So if I didn't have that little medical condition allergy, I would totally be doing horses as well, which will be, of course, on the outskirts. That's not really in the city of any sort.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. I used to be allergic to cats until I became a vet, and then my allergy, like, literally went away, which is very lucky.
Yeah, very lucky. Very
Yeah.
lucky. I've always been allergic to them all my life. I didn't take it seriously until I went into vet school and had to be around the horses and the hay and everything. And that's when I got allergy tested. And they were like, "Are you sure you want to be a vet?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm sure." They're like, "Maybe a lab animal vet." I'm like, "No, I don't want to do that. Just give me immunotherapy. We'll make it work." And I mean, my mom has pictures of me as a little girl with my eyes swollen, red, smile on my face, cat on my hip, and just having a great time. So it's normal to me. But now that I've been around them more, I don't react as much. Maybe about 2 years ago, I was draining a hematoma and accidentally poked myself. And as vets, we poke ourselves all the time, especially as an acupuncturist. But boy, when I tell you, I had a serious anaphylactic reaction. And they don't test you when they're doing immunotherapy testing. They don't test you for dog protein. They just test you for the dander. So yeah, now I'm really careful when dealing with dog blood and a wound of any sort that I may have on. But yeah, I think being around them just desensitizes us a lot from them.
Yeah. Wow, that's really fascinating. Well, that's really cool that you fixed up the tortoise. I'm proud of you. It's really cool. What I always wonder, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but like with reptiles that that have scales, like snakes, like you're supposed to put the needle between the scales. Do you happen to know? I don't know. We'll look into it.
Don't know. I don't know him. I don't know actually.
So I had a client who had a friend who wanted their snake treated with acupuncture, and like it didn't work out with the scheduling. Like it wasn't quite the right match of a client either. But in my head, I'm like, I can look at any picture of, or extrapolate, where exactly the needles would go. But like, what about the scales? Like, do you penetrate the scale? Do you go between the scale? Like, my intuition is it would be like between the scales, but I always still wonder about that.
Like that freaks me out a little bit. And I'm trying to think on the tortoise. I want to say the points that I found on him were actually in between the scales. Just it, but I wasn't. I'll be honest, with you, I wasn't paying attention to the scales. I didn't know. It was literally I walked in at 8 o'clock in the morning and I was like, "What is that? Why am I Karen?" And this was when I was when I was actually working in the clinic, and they're like, "Dr. Walton, Caitlin has something for you." And the week before, she brought me a duck, and I was like, "Caitlin, you have got to stop bringing these animals. I'm more than happy to do them, but I don't know. I don't know much, so I have to actually look up things and see how to do this on them." So yeah,
That
that's
also freaks me out. Speaking of birds, like the air sacs, like what if you puncture an air sac? Like,
think about
I
that.
don't know, that freaks me out a little bit. So I'm sort of like, I don't know. We'll have to look into that, right?
No, I didn't even think about that. I did not do acupuncture on the duck. I was like, "No, I draw the line." But it's studying this first. I gotta study it.
I love it. Okay, so now on the subject of like odd creatures, tell me a little bit about your beekeeping, and I'd love to hear about the plant medicine too. And like, that's so
Mhm.
interesting. I feel like that is like a millennial obsession to be like beekeeping and having chickens and maybe goats and things in my version.
Right, the homesteading.
Homestead, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The beekeeping was just me challenging myself. I'm that person that swatting bugs away from running from spiders. That's me. And I am an advocate for just learning. Like I always want to learn and I love veterinary medicine. I love animals and stuff, but picking up something that takes me out of my comfort zone and learning outside of my comfort zone just I feel like takes me just kind of to the next level. So there is a honey, it's called the Honey Collective that's here in Nashville. And it's a group of beekeepers. And with beekeeping, you have a lot of supplies so they share a lot. It's like a cooperative. They're sharing a lot of their supplies that they're using, and they for a apprenticeship, just beekeeper apprenticeship. So there's about 6 of us in the apprenticeship, and a client mentioned this to me, and she's like, I think they have scholarships." And here I go again, filling out another scholarship. So I filled out the scholarship. It was a BIPOP scholarship, and even in filling out the scholarship, I learned that, there's not a lot of Black people or people of color in general in beekeeping, but it originally did start with people of color, the beekeeping. So that really made me get into it because I'm like, okay, like this is an initiative that I can pick up on. Just teaching people and getting people used to, because even showing people pictures, like my friends and stuff, they're like, "Who are it?" And I'm like, no, I'm not crazy. Like, I'm just learning something new. So got out there and I don't have any bees yet. So some people in the class have bees. I don't have any bees. I need to know what I'm getting into first. How the program is designed is going through the beekeeping season. So we started in the springtime and going over the food that they need, the plants that they're going after, the hierarchy and just how a beehive works is mind blowing to me. Talk about girl power. Like it is mind blowing to me. When they say queen bee, they mean it. So when I was starting to learn the biology of bees, I was like, oh, I started to nerd out with it. And I was like, I don't even know if I own bees, but I think that they are extremely fascinating creatures in the way that they are organized, top tier. So along the way, we are now in the dearth season where nectar flow isn't high of any sort, and bees are a little defensive because they're trying to keep their honey storages to themselves for the winter time. So we're learning that right now. I have not been stung by a bee yet, ever in my life. So, interesting enough, I'm waiting for that day to happen just so I can stop anticipating it, but I haven't been stung yet. I have my whole bee suit get up and everything. I'm gonna have to get my husband a bee suit as well because it is a two-person job. I'm starting a colony next spring, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm always involved in something, so we'll see. If not, I eventually at some point in time, I will. And I told my sister the other day, I said, I have this dream of growing peppers, having a hive, and having some chickens and calling it Hot Honey Chicken Farm. Oh, I gave away my idea.
I love you heard it first here.
Yeah, definitely. Please credit me.
That's right. That's right. Oh my God.
So,
I
yeah.
love that.
Yeah, yes, yeah. So it's just something fun and it's switch up from the norms, learning something new and totally different community of people. It's not a circle that I would naturally run into. So that's good as well too, is that I'm working with meeting new people that are interested in beekeeping. So really cool there. My favorite tea house here in Nashville was called High Garden Tea. They unfortunately got destroyed by the tornado in 2020. So they closed down, but they decided to invest in education more so than just selling products. And so Leah Larabelle is a fabulous, wonderful, astonishing herbalist. And she hosts a class every year. It's about 5 months and we go out to her property and we're going over each system and the herbs associated with that system, which is great. That's right up my alley. The class took a turn when we went outside and started speaking to the plants. And I said, okay, I don't know about this part, but I'd be darned by the end of the class, I was literally hugging trees. But just learning, I mean, at this point in my life, nature is amazing to me right now. And I mean, sometimes it makes me want to cry. I'm like, this is crazy how trees communicate with each other, you know, plants and just the ecosystem. Like, of course, we learned this stuff, but we didn't learn it. So, learning it now and just how we can use plants and how, my husband's like, there's a bunch of weeds outside. I'm like, they're not weeds. They're not weeds. That's planting. That's for the for things. Exactly. So I now am that person that's outside grounding and talking to the plants and asking, I don't want to say use them because again, I have drinking the Kool-Aid. So because we don't use plants, but how can you help me more so? Just yesterday, I'm actually looking at it now, driving along and I saw a field of goldenrod and I have my shears in the car. I grabbed my gloves, I put my gloves on and I just kind of trimmed it away and came home and hung it up. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but some sort of plant medicine I'll use it for. So it really opened my eyes to just medicine, herbal medicine. I know a lot about animals and I know more so of, and I kept saying, I know Chinese herbs, but I don't necessarily know Western herbs. And it's not that I don't know Western herbs, it's just that they're in the Chinese name. So it makes you think that you don't know, but they're the same herbs. They just have a different name for their, of course, the scientific name is the same, but it overlaps. So this past year, I did elderberry syrup for my family for gifts for Christmas. Just, held me that elderberry syrup there. And I'm trying to think of what herbal product I'll do this year. But my family really appreciates the herbal knowledge that I had. They came here this summer and they brought COVID. And I be darned, we were all sick, but it cleared out pretty fast within, I would say, 3 to 4 days. And it was ranging in age from someone in their 60s all the way to a 1-year-old. And we made it work. We did our nasal steams. I made little popsicles for my niece and everything. And it worked really well. So it's a practice like anything. And just take this here, take this, try, see how this works for you. So I'm enjoying it. And I plan for that to definitely be a staple in my, I like to say, pharmacy, FARM pharmacy. So that's where we're at now.
Pharmacy, love it. Oh, I'm so inspired. I feel like I learned a little bit, like, in a similar type of lineage about herbs. Like, we have the Chinese herbs, but then there's also, like, the local herbs or the, quote, unquote, Western herbs, and there's, like, that connection with the land. I think there's, like, some, like, indigenous Native American tradition in the sort of permission asking to take the herb and speaking to the plant, making offerings and things like that, and I think it's just a really beautiful paradigm to approach the plants and the herbs, and there's all of these wonderful, like, sacred traditions, and to be able to incorporate a little bit from each tradition and historical use of how they were used and harvested and things like that, it's really, really special, and I love that you were able to treat your family for COVID. I'm always trying to, like, shove my herbal concoctions down my husband's gullet, and he's like, he's like, "If it doesn't come from a store, I'm not taking it." I'm like, "This is better than the store."
I got one of those too, but now he trusts me. He's like, "Okay, it works." I'm like, "It works. It works. You may have to take it 5 or 6 times a day as opposed to just twice a day, but it works in the long run."
It does, it's good stuff. Okay, so I have questions. Do you have a favorite or favorite plant medicine? And do you have a favorite essential oil?
Yes. My favorite plant right now, and I feel like it changes with the season, I'll say, is nettle. It's stinging nettle, yeah, stinging nettle. I had a time with stinging nettle. I have a hydroponic tower where I grow all like my lettuce and herbs and everything. And didn't know much about stinging nettle at all. This was before I started taking a plant medicine class, and so it's an indoor hydroponic tower. I have one outdoor too, but I put the nettle inside, and it sits by the door that the dogs go in and out of and that we use a lot of, and I had a hard lesson rubbing up against that stinging nettle, and I'm like, "Oh my, what type of plant is this?" But then I got to know it and became familiar with it, introduced myself to it, and it kindly introduced itself to me. And in the plant medicine class is where I found that nettle is good for a lot of things, but just really good nourishment. So I decided to move the plant outside, and it works way better outside. I've done tinctures of nettle. I actually do, and I'm trying it out new recently over the past few months is tincturing fresh nettle. Fresh nettle has antihistamine activity to it, which I would take nettle in the past before, but it wasn't fresh. And so now when I start sneezing, I start running, I have been taking that nettle and I'll tell you within about 5 to 10 minutes, things cease. I have to take it again, probably in about 10 to 15 minutes again, but it clears up the stuffy nose, the red eyes, so, I'm loving some nettle. And now I know how to work with it now that and I realized I didn't introduce myself to the plant. That's why we had that relationship. But now that I've introduced myself to the plant, I'm sure my husband's probably hearing me rolling his eyes back there. But now that I've introduced myself to the plant, we work well together. So that would be my favorite herb right now. Favorite essential oil, I would have to say, are going to be I use doTERRA essential oils, so there's a formula of herbs that they'll have what do they call them? like 5 or 6 oils into one particular essential oil formula of some
Like a
sort,
blend,
and
yeah.
yes, exactly, and my favorite one is Balance, which is a ton of wood oils, which is just really good for grounding. Because a lot of times find myself very unbalanced, depending on what life hands me, as we spoke earlier, so I am dousing myself in Balance wood oils right now, but it also changes with the season, recent deaths coming up, or I shouldn't say recent deaths coming up with them, but there have been some deaths, and there's some of my family members who are starting to transition. Probably switch over to like some rose oils of some sort when that time comes, just for the heart and for grief and mourning and everything. But right now, I'm totally into the wood oil.
I love it. Yeah, I'm very partial to the rose oils, rose essential oil, and the wood oils too, and like copaiba and like. Have you had the copaiba
Yeah.
one? That one's very expensive, but it's really nice. I love that. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Now I'm just like so inspired by our conversation, and like I'm gonna go like douse myself in oils like after the.
If anything, an oil will fix it. I'm like, I have oil for that. I have oil. And my husband's like, you don't have a plant? You don't have a herb? Oil is a thing. Yes, I have that as well too. So yeah, so we're on that route over here. We'll see how long it lasts, but I expect longevity with this. It's really, really helpful when it comes to just everyday, any type of situation with oils, emotional, physical, internal, all of that. And like I said, I use it on the animals. I use Copaiba for, I took a essential oil, Dr. Janet Warwick,
Hey,
essential oil vet, and she paired Copaiba to CBD.
oh,
Okay. She
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like the essential oil CBD, and I use it for my dog with elbow dysplasia, and I'll dilute it down to 1% and put it in a capsule. And I have to say, like, it is expensive, but it is cheaper than the CBD I use for him. But I get good benefits. I get results off of that.
That's smart. Yeah, I mean, you're right. That probably is less expensive. I like that. Yeah, and you
Mhm.
get so much use out of like one little vial.
Right.
Potent.
Especially when you're diluting it to like 1%, you get a lot of use out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, I love this. What a juicy conversation. Very. We could go on for ages, but I guess I should probably steer us back to house call things. And I wanted to see, do you have any advice for house call vets or prospective house call vets? Anything you wish you'd done different? Any words of wisdom that you might like to share with our listeners?
Let's see. I'm going to pass along something that was passed to me. She was a house call vet. Her name was Dr. Jen. Her last name is skipping me right now. I can't remember, but she's now in New Orleans. She was here in Nashville some years ago. She's very, very well loved here in this community. And I met with her, just forces brought us together for a purpose. And she said, boundaries, create your boundaries and stick to them. If you want to end your day at 4 o'clock, you end your day at 4 o'clock. And yes, you're going to have clients say, I don't get off work till 4:30. You end your day at 4 o'clock. They'll make it work. If they want it, they'll make it work. But boundaries. And I take that very seriously. And of course, I'm always flexible. I'm always flexible, especially like when it comes to euthanasia or something like that. I'm flexible. Or if, I have to cancel an appointment because I'm sick, I'll come see you, when it's 7 o'clock at night. I'll work that out. But boundaries was the biggest thing. And I'll say things I could do different. I use a text line, just a Google Voice text line. And this kind of ties into the boundaries. I don't have boundaries with the Google text line. And that's something that I want to learn. So that would be my advice is that if you do something like that, because it's very simple to do. I know there's tons of companies out there that you can do a two-way text through, but I go the free, cheap route with Google Voice. And I'll get text messages at 11 o'clock at night, and I'll get them off the weekends and everything. So again, boundaries. That's my biggest advice is create those boundaries however you prefer. If I had to do things again, I wouldn't be so free with the text line. I would, just kind of set boundaries and say, like, the text line is available. It's a courtesy. It's complimentary to my visits with you, but it's a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 type of text line. not at 1 o'clock in the morning, not, for emergencies or anything like that. Cause I'm not a primary. I'm doing acupuncture, but I'm not their primary vet. So that's what the primary vet is there for, or the emergency room. So I would say that's my biggest advice. And I'm still working on following it when it comes to the text line. But as far as my hours, that was probably the greatest advice that she can give me because I got away from corporate medicine because of the work-life balance. It didn't work well for me. It was driving me crazy. And so when she mentioned that, I felt liberated to be able to say, these are my hours. And, I'm sorry but, here's another resource. They may be able to see you after hours. But yeah, I would say that would be my best advice to others. And I don't necessarily have any regrets. Would I do things differently? I like the way I went about doing things. I felt well informed going into it. I didn't feel like a fish out of water. There may be some small things here and there where I may have done differently, but no regrets. I'm happy with where I'm at. Oh, I'll say this. Business, just having some sort of business course, having a resource for business. Yeah, that is the biggest thing. House Call Academy, like that is the biggest thing is having some sort of background. My husband is the business minded person. So he is really able to help me keep it professional on the business level of things. But that is my everyday struggle is just managing a business and being just a one woman show over here. So yeah, what I don't know if a business class helps people. I feel like finding a individual to bounce questions off of is probably the best route to go, but being somewhat business minded is going to be really helpful in the long run.
Such good advice. Oh my God. There's so many threads that I want to pull on from that. I wanted to thank you for all of that. I think that's wonderful, wonderful advice for people who are getting started or want to get started or maybe are in their house call practice already and having regrets in some way. Cause there's a lot of people like that. And so first of all, I guess it's also just really wonderful to hear you say I have no regrets and I'm loving it. I'm happy with what I did. That's just a very beautiful thing to hear, and, I can hear how beautiful your practice is and how fulfilling it is, and that's obvious, that's evident, so I'm just really happy to hear about that, and I'm proud of you, and I'm really excited, and it's wonderful, and kind of looping back around to the boundaries, 100% the best advice ever, and I think people get trapped sometimes. They're looking for that escape from the corporate work-life misbalance, right? And then they go into their house call practice, and they either don't have the skills or the knowledge of how to employ boundary work. And so they still have the problem of work-life balance, but it's fixable. Now it's in your court. So basically all you need to do is work with the boundaries and figure out how your boundaries work, how to communicate those boundaries. And like you said, I also love that you said I have flexible boundaries. There's three types of boundaries out there. Probably we've all heard this by now, but there's porous boundaries, there's flexible and healthy boundaries, and then there's rigid boundaries. And most of us veterinarians start out in the chorus, we want to help everyone. We feel it's wrong to say no. We're completely uncomfortable with setting a boundary and saying no in any capacity, even as if saying it very, very nicely, it still is so alien to us as veterinarians and naturally helper people or rescuer archetypes. And we all want to just yes, 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 I want to help you. Right. And then as we learn about boundaries, usually the pendulum seems to swing all the way to the rigid side. And I've noticed as I teach people boundaries, they go off into the rigid side, but then they swing back and back and back and back, and then eventually settle into this sort of flexible boundary that's sort of what do I need? I'm not saying no just to say no. I'm saying no because this is what's healthy for me. This is what I need. Do you know that quote, Prentice Cahill or something like that? That's boundaries are the distance at which I can love both you and me.
Mhm. Yep,
And
I'm
then that to
familiar.
me feels a balance. It's not saying no for the sake of saying no
Right.
and just being a dick, right? It's not saying yes just because you can say yes. So I love that you named that flexible boundary and finding where it is. And that'll come too with the phone. And humans are humans. They're always going to text at 1, always going to text at 11 p.m. And so it's you already named it. You learn to find what that balance is for you, what's sort of protecting yourself while not being too rigid, et cetera, et cetera. But I just love all of that stuff that you said and also just wanted to validate it's such a struggle for people to get used to the fact that people text at inappropriate hours. It is human nature. And like seeing
Mhm.
it just like makes you want to like claw your eyes out. You're like, are you effing serious? But it's just gonna happen. And there's like all sorts of ways to sort of just be like, I am in my zone. And that comfortable with being with looking at those text messages and say, I'm gonna reply back to you on Monday. And it bugs me so much because I want to reply back and forth. But I gotta train my clients to be like, hey, it's here Monday through Friday. And again, I remember going to a Beyonce concert. Nashville is so popular for party buses, and we were on the party bus before the concert, and I mean, we're drinking, we're having a good time, and I'm like knee deep in my phone. My husband's like, "This is like Beyonce is your everything, and what are you doing?" And I'm like, again, this is like the compassionate side of me. Like I'm, supposed to be having a good time, and I am having a good time, but somebody's pet is passing away and transitioning. And I feel like I have to be there for them. And I don't regret that. Like, yeah, I missed about 20, 30 minutes of fun and drinking and everything. Believe me, I caught up. But I was able to tend to that owner in that moment, even though it was a weekend. And, yeah. So thank you. I appreciate the validation on that. Yeah, no, I've been there too. I feel like so many of us have been there, and it really is a balance and finding that like you don't want to also feel like terrible that you didn't respond in the moment of need of someone you really, really care about. And so finding that sweet spot is like really the ticket right there. And it's a work in progress for every single one of us. Like I have those moments too, for sure. And like it looks like you're navigating it beautifully, to be honest. But thank you for mentioning that concept because it is very, very highly discussed and an ongoing issue for us house call vets who have our phones with us all the time.
Mhm. Oh, yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
But anyway, thank you so much for this conversation. I'm so inspired. I wanted to close up the episode by asking, is there a favorite beverage that you might like to order here in the House Call Vet Cafe?
I would love a jasmine green tea.
You got it. Do you want bubbles in it? Do you want almond
Mm.
milk? Do you want
I want just a little bit of raw honey. I take that back. I want a lot of raw honey.
You got it. You got it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Arielle. You're awesome. I so loved this conversation, and I'm excited for you to be one of our amazing speakers at our upcoming House Call Vet conference,
Mhm.
House Call and Mobile Vet virtual conference, February 1st and 2nd. Everyone mark your calendars, get your tickets.
Yeah.
There's so much more from Dr. Arielle, and I'm just really excited to continue our conversation. So looking forward to it.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. And again, with House Call Academy and just your journey, I have been so impressed and really admired the journey that you have taken and the growth that I've seen from a distance. It's super noticeable from a distance. I can't imagine the people that are around you. I know that those people are so proud of you, and I'm really proud of you in the growth that in the community, this house call community that you have created. So keep up the good work. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you too.
Okay, bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the House Call Vet Cafe. If you enjoyed this episode, then hit the subscribe or follow button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never have to miss an episode. This podcast is made specifically for you, so don't be shy if you'd like to reach out and let me know your thoughts on this episode. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as the House Call Vet Academy, where I also share more valuable content. If you're interested in learning more about consulting for House Call Vets or the House Call Vet Academy online course and community, please click on the link in the show notes. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I can't wait for you to join us for our next episode of the House Call Vet Cafe.